Hello everybody, how you doing? I'm going to, oh, I can do this. Give me a second here. I'm going to talk about Halloween coming up. As I was riding around on a supply run, I happened to notice that there are many churches right now that are, and they've made them, hey people, how y'all doing? But they've made these holidays, they've taken them on, made them part of their celebration. I was having a conversation with somebody earlier today. What's up, Jax? I was having a conversation with some people earlier today, and they were in denial of the fact that Christianity superimposed itself on top of other religions, that many of the traditions today in Christianity are simply paganistic rituals and rites. And we got into this discussion because they were inviting me to come to their fall festival. And I asked, I said, well, I'm not, you know, my kids are grown, so I'm not interested in coming to a fall festival. But I was like, why are y'all having a fall festival? And you're a Christian. Why are you celebrating the end of fall and going into winter? Why are y'all doing a harvest festival, a harvest celebration? You should not be doing those kinds of things. And the only reason I had this conversation with this person is because they are the minister over this church. And they previously had came to me and saying how they don't do anything outside the Bible. Expressing that what you're doing with your fall festival is hypocritical because that is outside of your Bible. And I proceeded to explain to him how, right, people don't want true knowledge. I proceeded to explain to him how Christianity, how Halloween started as a Druid holiday. It's this Druid holiday called Samhain. You can go look it up. It's a Druid holiday called Samhain. And Samhain was that, this is where they get the idea of, it was the last day of the harvest. So whatever you harvested that year, you wanted to give thanks for it. So they asked that Druid priest to pray over their stuff. But also it was a time frame where they believed that the divide between the living world, this dimensional plane, this conscious, this third dimensional plane, and the next world, the after death world, that they were thin, shallow. The portals were relatively open, is what they believed. So, and they believed that everybody who had died the previous year had access to walk around. And not all of them were good people. So not all of them were going to be good apparitions or good ghosts. So they would bring treats and bring food out to the outskirts of their village to try to keep the walking dead away from their houses, or they would put a tree in front of their house. And that's one of the reasons where trick-or-treating comes from. Now, later on, the Romans, they had a holiday at the end of the festival for the celebration of Pomona. Pomona was the goddess of fruits and vegetables, so she was an end of harvest celebration on November 1st. Samhain was October 31st, but the word Samhain is actually, it's Druid for November as well. But, so Pomona was this goddess of fruits and vegetables, end of the harvest. Apple bobbing was part of the celebration of Pomona. So they kind of collided, and just as the Romans mixed everything, like the Romans didn't care that you didn't believe what they believed. They just mixed their stuff, just like the Greeks mixed the horror story with Ptolemy to create Serapis, and then the Romans later made Serapis because that was, hey, that's similar to Dionysus, and so they didn't mind Serapis, and then that got mixed into the Jesus character once the church took over, the Roman church took over. So the Romans has a history of mixing things like that. So when they came and they saw, hey, you Druid dudes, y'all do this deal with Samhain, well, we got Pomona, so we're just gonna mix the two up. And so they got all mixed up together, right? And so, and I was explaining this to the guy that you had people like Pope Gregory who created All Saints Eve to combat the Druids and combat other pagans who were into end of fall celebrations and worship. And then you had Pope Innocent, who went against Wiccans and witches, period. And they created All Souls Day, trying to combat people from being caught up into Halloween. But because in Pomona you dressed up as characters, those kinds of things stuck. You know, they stuck with the people, and the people, they still dressed up, they still entreated looked at as a night of mischief. They still entreated the dead, the walking dead, to ensure that, you know, that nothing happened to them. And they also wanted to make sure that that their future, their harvest was blessed, that they would have a better harvest the next year. So I was asking, I said, okay, I understand churches started having fall festivals some time ago because they didn't want their kids, the children at the church, to feel bad that they weren't going out trick-or-treat. They were cowing down to the emotions of children instead of just teaching them, hey, this is just not what we do. I would actually have more respect for somebody to say, this is just not what we do. When I was getting ready to have kids, well, you know, with my kid's mom, one of my things was, my kids are not going to grow up doing Halloween. It just wasn't something they was going to do. We weren't going to have Christmas trees and all that kind of stuff. It just, at that time in my life, I determined that was, you know, it was just something we weren't going to do. And we actually held up from having kids for like 2 years because we were in disagreement with that, and we had to find a place, a medium that we could be in, so that that we was okay. But I just told him that I thought it would be better if you just don't do nothing at all. October 31st for a Christian should come and pass and mean absolutely nothing. Made up holidays like All Saints Day, you know, and All Souls Day were made up to combat the pagans, as they call them, because those people respected the bounty of earth. They respected nature. They respected the fact that the earth provides grain and food and fruits for them. They would have animal sacrifice because they felt they needed to give back to the earth. They worship the nature you can see, and they worship the nature that fed them, that gave them food, that gave them livestock, that gave them vitality. They looked at the sun because they knew this, without that sun, without that right there, that this earth wouldn't matter, that we wouldn't be here, that we can't survive. So they're fall festivals. So when churches have fall festivals, it's like you're giving in, you're playing the game of trying to straddle the fence. But my message to the Christian world, stop straddling the fence. Either be it or don't. But I drive around and every church is having fall festivals, and they got one church just got a straight Halloween night. And even the ones that do the dress up like Bible characters, really? You know what I would love to see? And I'm gonna talk to Kevin about this. They want to dress up like Bible characters. They should have them act out the life of these Bible characters. I would love to see them act out the life of Judah. When Judah was, and this is why I laugh with the Hebrew Israelites when they tell me they're from the tribe of Judah. When Judah, I believe, I may be getting it wrong, but correct me if I'm wrong, but I believe Judah was the one who had sex with his daughter-in-law, but thought she was a prostitute. Then he wanted to kill her, but then realized that he had sex with, that she had tricked him, so she was right to trick him. Now, that's the dude you want to dress up like Judah. But let's dress up like David, who saw another man's wife bathing, coveted that wife, had sex with that wife, tried to kill the man, then killed the man, then got the woman pregnant, had a baby died, and said, well, I'm gonna get her pregnant again and make her my queen, and then the wisest man ever was born from that union. Yeah, let's have the kids dress up like that, dude. Let's do that. You know, dressing up like these Bible characters is crazy. Let's dress up like Abraham. You know, he has sex with, he has sex with his wife, no babies. Has sex with a handmaid, Hagar, has a baby, kicks her out. You know, he the worst baby daddy, kicks her out into the to the wilderness. Then she comes back because God told her to come back, and I'll make a great nation out of your kid. And then he has a baby with his wife. So yeah, let's get down with that guy. Let's dress up as that guy. So they like to romanticize the story. So even this dressing up as biblical characters doesn't make any sense. You know, you're still participating in a festival to celebrate the harvest. You're still celebrating the harvest. You're still celebrating that you are praying to the gods to get you through. Yeah, I'm gonna tell Kevin, but you're still praying to the gods to get you through the winter. That you have enough food to get you through the winter. You're still celebrating those festivals designed for that. You're still celebrating the earth. You're worshiping the earth. So if you're gonna do it all out. Do it full bore. You know. So it cracked me up when he came into my store yesterday and we was talking about this. Because he tried to turn it. He said, well, you know, we just want, you know, the kids to be able to have fun in a safe environment and do all that. And I asked him, I said, well, let me ask you a question. Would not the kids on October 31st, if they just stayed home and watched TV, stayed home and played video games, stayed home and watch YouTube or whatever they do, if they did whatever they do on October 20th, if they do the same thing on October 31st, would they still not be safe? You don't have to provide a safe environment for them to come to on that night, because you could teach your congregation, just keep your child at home. Explain to them that this comes from a Druid and Roman paganistic worship of nature, of the harvest, and let that be that. Oh, I'm sorry, I'm driving, so I didn't know you was hearing a lot of noise, but I'm driving, and I just thought I'd give you guys a little chat. And I'm on the roads of Atlanta that aren't the best right now. But I'm only going to be on here about another 15-20 minutes before I'm headed to the bank. Got to get to the bank. But I'm curious, what do you guys think about that? What do you guys think about, you know, how people are celebrating this? They're making transition. They're changing things. It's, get a mic with noise. Actually, this thing's supposed to have noise reduction. It really is. It's supposed to have noise reduction. I don't know. Maybe, I'll tell you what. Let's see if this works. I don't know. It doesn't need to be in my ear anyway. Tell me, is this better? I hold it like a microphone. But, because maybe it's rubbing against my shirt or something. But anyway, I'm really curious as to what you guys think about that aspect of it. And when you see that, when you see the churches doing that sort of thing right now, does it give you for, okay, I tapped it. He said tap the mic. So anybody watching this, you know, in Memorex, oh, I don't know. I don't know what to tell you, bro. Well, anyway, I'm gonna keep talking, and we'll see what we can do next time. So, what do you guys think about the fact that, well, not so much what you think about. Does this not also, for us in that mindset who's walked away, you have no problem with the trick-or-treating? I resent the churches taking away all the tricks. The church is taking away all the trick-or-treaters. Yeah, it's, and I understand that. I understand that, Jamie. Most Christians live in a fabrication of, in a fabrication of environment they use. They was brought in without asking why or doing research to find out what's real. I think I understand that. But you're right. The churches do take away a lot of the people because they are going to the churches to do it. And, you know, in some of the larger cities, definitely, larger suburban areas, because people feel like it's not safe anymore. And the fabrication, I understand that one right. Most Christians live in a fabrication of environment They was brought in without asking. Yeah, most of them don't ask. Most people don't research why they do what they do anyway. They don't research anything about why they live the way they live, why they choose to be how they are. We even have to be mindful of that in the awakened community, because in the awakened community, we will still do it we will still sometimes look at everything from a black perspective or a white perspective or an American perspective, or we'll just look at our awakened state from a Kemet perspective, ignoring the Sumerians, ignoring the Asian, the Taoists. We'll ignore the Hopi Indians, the Aztecs, the Mayans. There's a bounty of universal knowledge and wealth out there that no one group has on lock, and I'm not trying to be funny. Surin, you don't have to be on here. If the noise is too much for you, you don't have to be on here. Okay, you can catch me on a different live when I'm sitting in my office or in my business. But to continue to tell me the mic is bothering you makes no difference unless your purpose is just to distract. So that's the last comment I'm going to make about the microphone and the sound. So anyhow, and maybe you're trying to distract. I don't know. I don't care. But I think in the awakened community, we have to realize that we must be focused on just gaining wisdom, gaining knowledge of our spiritual self. One of the things I like about what the Druids were looking at is that they were having spiritual experiences, right? And that, which is one of the reasons why Pope Innocent went so hard against them and started the witch hunts and connected them to Satan, their version of Satan and what they call the devil, is because these people were having spiritual experiences, and they were having them by believing in a pantheon of gods and goddesses. And so they connected that to being devilish. But these people, by whatever mechanism they were using, by whatever ritual rites that they used to get their consciousness into that state, were having these experiences. And I think that we will be remiss to not be attentive to that. I'm not saying you have to go and become a Druid priest or priestess. I'm not saying you have to become a Kemetic priest or priestess. I'm not saying you have to become any of those things. But, thank you. But what I am saying is, don't ignore wisdom wherever you find it. You see, when I was doing I had to go back and do some research on Halloween, because, I mean, you can get into Sam Hammond, you can get into a lot of other different harvest festivals, the Walking Dead type events that occurred at this time of year. But understand, all the Walking Dead stuff happened because the winter began, and winter represented death. All right, it's the death of the crops, it's the death of the trees, it's the death of everything. Everything goes into death at this time. The Greeks created their story of Hades and Persephone, right? That she fell in love, she went down to Hades, she ate some fruit, and now she got to stay down with Hades from, the fall to the spring. And Hera cries during this time frame, so she lets all the foliage die, and that's how they explain death coming. So we have to be. We have to take in these wisdom. Now, stories like that, we just look at the analogies, the allegories of it. But when we look at the Druids and what they were doing, because they were deeply into connecting with the spirit world, with the next dimensional plane, let's look at what they did. Let's look at Stonehenge a little bit differently. Let's look at their processes of getting their mindset, their consciousness into that zone. I mean, we can do it from many different perspectives. So when I look at Halloween or Samhain or whatever you want to call it, I look at it from a perspective of bridging that conscious gap, bridging that spiritual gap, to be able to work with ancestors, to be able to work with, different spiritual beings at different levels. I usually don't express a lot of these things. I haven't in the past, but I will do so even more now, especially because I had a recent visitation of an ancestor in one of my dreams. And and one of the messages was for me to be more vocal about my spiritual connections. So I'll be sharing those things. Some of those things may turn you off, but you don't have to accept everything I say. Just take from it what you will. But anyway, yeah. So the conversation with the pastor guy, but at the end of the conversation, I don't think the light went off at all, because he still kept trying to explain it away. He still kept trying to make it fit, right? And I was telling him, I said, the way that you're trying to make it fit into this American dichotomy is the same way that the early church made the Saturnalia fit for the birth of Jesus. It's the same way they made the birth of Horus fit for the birth of Jesus. The same way they made Dionysus, Mithras fit for the birth of Jesus. The same way they took the winter solstice and made it fit for the birth of Jesus, as well as the resurrection. And I'm going to make a video about that later on the day, because somebody sent me a comment where I saw this conversation and I participated in it about how with astrology and Christianity, you know, we're practicing astrology and understanding it and using it. But they made these things fit and then just rearranged them. It's just like Santa Claus. They made Santa Claus fit for their story, you know. We're in alignment with that one. Yeah, all right. I'm making that one today, but that one I want to make while I'm sitting down. I'm gonna have to make that video, and then I got to add like pictures and stuff like that in order to explain everything on that one, so it won't be a live one. I don't have a Josh, but the thing about it is they made it fit, and I was explaining to him how he's making fall festivals and all that kind of stuff fit into his Christianity, molding it into something that it should not ever have been, right? But he still couldn't see that. He just kept staying with, well, we're just giving them a safe place to go, a safe, holy place to go. But I'm like, you're giving them a safe, holy place to go on a night that's dedicated to the Walking Dead. That's what you're doing. Celebrating the Festival of Fruits. That's what you're doing. So it just wasn't, it was just, you know, right over the head. But it was all right. You know, it was cool. We had our conversation. I don't think he's coming back to my store though. But I know the guy, just to be straight up. I knew the guy previously for some years. And he knew me when I went to this church for a little bit, when I was still kind of like going to a church for study, just to see what they were studying. I mean, I wasn't believing what they were believing, but I just want to get deeper study. Running piece away from your store with. Yeah, well, see, he came to my store because, like I was saying, some other people from that church had been coming to my store. They told him that I have a store. So he came to my store for a benefit to his church, to have me be at his church as a vendor during his fall festival. And initially I just said, you know, it's not something that I can do. I'm not really interested in it and that sort of thing. He then brought up the fact that I used to come to his noonday Bible study, and that he remembers some of the disagreements and the conversations and how it stirred other people to ask deeper questions about the Bible. And he was like, I kind of, you know, that he liked that. And he wanted me to come back. And I told him I can't come back. And he was like, why not? And I said, well, I really don't want to get into it. And he was like, no, you know, it's okay. Why can't you not come back? And I told him, I said, well, I held back a lot when I would come there. I was keeping things on a surface level because I wasn't there to disturb your flock. You know, I was there just to get a little bit, right? And he asked me like, well, what do you mean a lot that you wouldn't hold back? And that's when I brought up the whole fall festival thing. So that's when we started talking about the fall festival. So I don't have these conversations with people at my store just out of the blue. You know, I don't have these conversations out of the blue. I actually try my best to avoid them as much as possible when people come into my store, because that's not what my store is for. It's not what my store is for. Although if you are in the Atlanta area, you may want to join my alchemy meetup group, because I am going to start having alchemy meetups at my store. after hours. I'm going to allow that to be a meetup place for my alchemy group. So if you're in the Atlanta area, maybe something for you to consider doing. Other than that, you may want to consider becoming a patron on Patreon, because I'll start doing more things on Patreon, on my Patreon account as well. I've got one person that's joined it so far, so yay Byron. But I just set it up. So, but we got to be careful with this traffic here in Atlanta, because these folks be driving. But we are. I try not to have those conversations with people when they come to my store, unless they like open the conversation up. Now, there are 3 ladies who come in. They are Druid priests and priestesses, and they come in my store quite often. So with them, I have very open conversation. We talk a lot of stuff. So if somebody comes in my store and we've already established an open line of communication, those people I talk to. We'll talk in my store about stuff like that, because of course, with the Druids, there's a lot of astrological things that come into play. So if you never looked up the Druids, they deal a lot with astronomy and astrology. Well, astrology and astronomy, because they were one and the same back in the day. But yeah, so I got about 7 minutes before I get to my destination. So if you got any questions, now will be the time for any questions. Or if you got any suggestions too. I'm always looking for suggestions for different videos, different subjects. Y'all know I believe in being the full renaissance. I'm never going to be just one kind of conversation. If you weren't on the conversation about Tantra, the Tantra conversation was great. It was really cool. I did one about relationships a while back. A live one last week about relationships. Every Tuesday at 8 o'clock, I'll be doing Zen with Ren. So we'll be having conversations. They'll range from business to relationships to spirituality, alchemy, everything. Because I'm not one-dimensional. You're not one-dimensional. So we should be able to have dialogue on multiple different subjects. And that's what the Zen of Rens is all about. It's about having conversations about the complete person. Because that's what life is. Life is about completeness, wholeness. It's not about the one-sided of you. Not about just the spiritual side, but it's about all the sides of you. And we want to get all that stuff, everything about you, working in concert with one another. Your mind, your body, your spirit, and your emotions. We need all those things, working together, right? It's kind of like this car. She about to go into the shop because she tripping on me, because I got to get everything working together, right? Are there a lot of Druids in our country? I'd like to meet one. Actually, they are. There's tons of Druids, people who are Druids in America. I'm guessing you're in America since you're in our country. But there are tons of Druids here in America. No boxes allowed. Okay, I don't know what the no boxes mean. Okay, you got to explain that one. There are Druids. You have to find different Wiccan covens, different Wiccan covens, and most of them, they're going to be Irish, of Irish background, Irish descent, going to be white people for the most part. Because the Druids were up in Northern Ireland area, so find some Wiccan covens, and when you find those Wiccan covens, you'll start to see some Druids. Use Meetup. You'll be able to find some in your city, where you're located, and you'll probably be able to find a group or two, or at least an initial group of Wiccans that can get you to some Druids. But the Druid process and practices have been making a strong comeback in America over the last 10-15 years. So you'll see more of them. I knew a lot of them when I was stationed in Germany, and one of them was a black guy. It was funny. One of the guys in my unit was a Wiccan, and he was more of a Druid Wiccan with the runes. So I learned a lot from him back in the mid-90s. He wasn't walking around hugging trees, but we talked about earth spirits, tree spirits, all that kind of stuff. But yeah, you can find them. I'm curious about what the no boxes mean. I have no idea what that means, but it's okay. But yeah, I think, you know, I like talking to people. Oh, don't think inside a box here. No boxes minded people. Right. I'm with you. I like, okay, I got you. I'm gonna steal that. Just letting you know. Consider it stolen. All right. But yeah, it's all about being outside the box, man. All about, sometimes I piss off a lot of black people because I refuse to just be all black. You know, I sometimes tell, with some of my friends, the joke is that I'm not of this dimension nor this planet, because I can't close myself off to any one group. I know what the melanin in my skin should suggest that I am, but I don't believe in race. I don't believe in nationalities. You know, I don't believe in all those things. I don't believe in that I have to have a certain culture, right? I can be whatever culture I want. If you have something in your culture, and okay, like Taoism, I love the Taoist philosophy. The Taoist philosophy is like freaking amazing. And a lot of your sayings, a lot of common sayings come from the Taoist, like the journey of 1,000 steps start with the first step. And that actually goes on, and I was going to do a video about this as well. Well, the video, yeah, there's a video, and I'm going to add this Taoist thought process into it. But that same saying says, it also says that to construct a building of 10,000 bricks, you start with the first brick. And I want to talk about the state of America, the state of race in America, of how we've taken this make-believe thing of race and it continues to divide us. But I am completely outside of the box in all of those things. Now, do I have preferences? Did I grow up in a culture? Do I have mindsets because of growing up in that culture? Yeah, but I've opened my mind to be able, you know, when my third eye opened and my heart bloomed, my heart chakra bloomed, I saw and still see the world so differently than most people around me, because I don't see it, you know, in the same way. I was on a panel, I was on a discussion yesterday about polyamorous and polygamy. And for me, some people were vehemently upset. But for me, I was like, there's benefits, and then there are pros and there are cons to it. And then it comes down to you, what you want, and how you're gonna live, and how you set it up. But I wasn't mad at anybody for having it. And when I've been in some other countries where that's the norm, it didn't bother me that people were living that kind of lifestyle, right? So I didn't care if people live that lifestyle, because I don't necessarily think the same way as everybody else thinks. Let's see. If somebody says, don't listen to that because it's evil, now listen to it because I'm breaking out of... You know what? I am the same way. What they tell me to stay away from is usually the thing I go run to, because usually they're using what they told you to stay away from for their own purposes. I'm honored to inspire you. Oh, use the no boxes. That's right. Right. When we learn from all humanity, that's what's truly being human. Race is an illusion, and it's with very real effects. And it is an illusion with very real effects. And you know, I see that so much in this country, right? I mean, people think that they just use religion for control, but race and nationality is used for control just as well, just as much. You know, gender is used for control. Sexual orientation is used for control. All these things are built around a huge control piece to keep people under the heel, keep them ignorant, keep them from being able to truly discover themselves and to blossom into their full spiritual being, so that you're doing things based on what's good for you and the whole, instead of just what's good for you alone, working outside of the ego instead of working through the ego, which is separation. You know, when we was talking about Tantra on Tuesday, you know, that's one of the things I talk about. Tantra doesn't work for you if you are ego driven. If you're ego driven, Tantra cannot work for you. You have to get rid of the ego in order for Tantra to work. So yeah, it's all about that. It's all about that control. But I just pulled up to the bank, and I got to get into the bank and make a deposit and get to my store. But I appreciate you guys riding with me through the traffic of Atlanta, because there was some. I plan to do more driving in the traffic videos as well, just so that we can spend more time communicating, we can get more information out. So y'all have a great day. I'll be producing at least one video today on YouTube, maybe 2 or 3. It depends on my workload this afternoon. But y'all have a great day, and remember that your greatness is non-negotiable. So free yourself. Well, I'd like to say free yourself to be yourself, because your greatness is non-negotiable. Y'all need, that's my tagline. So y'all have a good one. Talk to you later.